Welcome to the Show Me the Way podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Miller, and I'm so excited to bring this show to you. Show Me the Way is a podcast dedicated to exploring the journeys of those who have faced adversity and found themselves on unexpected paths. We will have meaningful, thoughtful conversations about challenges we have faced and how we discovered and forged new direction. Prepare to be inspired and to uncover your own strength as you listen to relatable and motivating stories. Life has a way of twisting and turning, and we often need a fresh perspective to understand how to navigate. Let's show each other the way. This week on Show Me the Way, I had the absolute joy of interviewing Paige Goldstein, daughter of previous guest Melissa Goldstein. Paige brought a refreshing and inspiring younger perspective to the show, grounded in optimism, spirituality, and a deep sense of purpose. Paige grew up with a twin brother dealing with autism, and she learned so much from this. Whether it was the adversity she witnessed or the joy and resilience her brother showed her, Paige developed a profound appreciation for life's deeper meaning. After being unexpectedly laid off from a job, Paige leaned into her intuition and discovered a new calling, sound healing. What started as an interest during a family trip has grown into a full-time passion. Paige is now on a mission to help others heal through the power of sound, bringing joy, light, and spiritual insight to all she touches. This conversation opened my heart in ways I didn't expect, and I know it will do the same for you. Tune in for a dose of inspiration, a reminder to follow your inner voice, and a beautiful example of what it means to choose faith over fear. Welcome back to the Show Me the Way podcast. Today's guest is Paige Goldstein. She's my friend and previous guest, Melissa Goldstein's daughter. And after Melissa enjoyed being on the show, she recommended her daughter connect with me as well. Paige and I chatted and determined she'd be a great addition and could really help our listeners. She's a sound healer, which I'm excited to hear more about, and she is trying to grow her business and get her message out to others. As I always say, everyone has a story, and I truly want to gain perspective from people of all ages, and both men and women. So I'm happy to diversify and have Paige share her life experiences and outlook with us. So thank you so much for being here, Paige.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Andrea. So, for those who don't know me, my name is Paige Goldstein. I am, I think, the first Gen Z guest on Show Me the Way. So, that's super exciting. I'm a certified sound healer and ceremonialist. And for those who don't know what sound healing is I play these big crystal quartz bowls, and the frequency of the bowls helps people fall asleep, release trauma and stress. I have a lot of people in my sound baths who repress their emotions and will cry a lot. They'll sleep, laugh. So, the nice thing about the bowls is if you have something on your heart or on your mind that you're suppressing, the bowls will bring it out. So, yeah, I work with a lot of people who are dealing with anxiety, depression, trauma, and just give them a healthy environment to release their emotions and really help them cope with day to day stress in a healthy way. And I like to say that my mission as a sound healer is to help high achievers shift from burnout to balance in a healthy way. Before finding sound healing, when I was in my corporate job, I would spend a lot of time after work doom scrolling on TikTok, watching Netflix because I was so stressed, and every self care activity for me felt so stressful. And what I like to say what sound healing is like a luxury nap. So people just come into my spaces, and all they have to do in order to experience healing is lie down and receive. And I got into sound healing in college, and then I started my certification course after I got laid off from my corporate job. And I kind of realized, like, oh, hey, like, these companies can get rid of me whenever they can. I need to create another stream of income in order to stay stable.
I love that. And to find something unique and something that you're passionate about, obviously passionate about, that's really great. I talk to young people so many times, and when I say young, just a lot younger than this woman who's going to be 47 this month. I I'm surprised and shocked and just happy when I hear that they are just figuring things out and making things work and coming into their own at such an early age. I think not having fear, figuring things out is just such an awesome quality to have. And I don't think a lot of people my age can say we had our head on our shoulders like that when we were in our 20s. So I think that's really respectable and super cool. So where did you go to college?
I went to Penn State.
Oh, okay. Now this house is a U of M house, so I don't know how much you were into football.
Oh, no.
But we don't have that in common, but that's okay. Actually,
No,
I have, family who live in Pennsylvania as well, so I do have some
cool.
family that are Penn State fans, so it's okay.
I
It's alright. We've had a lot of state fans on here. I even know people that are Ohio State fans, so
love gross, not Ohio State.
At least we have that in common, right? So what did you study at Penn State?
I studied labor and human resources, and then I minored in Spanish, so I am not
Oh,
using my degree at all right now.
which is totally okay. Wow, okay, minored in Spanish. All right, I was really interested in that. And then you said your corporate job, what were you doing before you got laid off?
So I was working in human resources in the aerospace industry. I really loved that job and was so sad when I got laid off, but it ultimately led me to a higher path and really showed me what my purpose is. So for that, I'm extremely thankful.
That's great. And where are you living right now?
So right now I'm living in Denver, Colorado, but I'll be back in Jersey starting June 30th. So if there's anybody listening who's in the Jersey area, either down at the Jersey Shore or Union County, Essex County area that's wanting a sound bath, I'm your girl. Hit me up. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's great. Cool. Okay, well, as you know, as we talked about, the Show Me the Way podcast is really a podcast talking about times that people faced adversity and how they learned from that and the perspective that they gained. When we had your mom on, actually, it's crazy. Her episode is the most downloaded episode. So she was all excited about that. She gave us so much perspective about you and your brother and being the mother of twins and just
Mhm.
all of the things that she's gone through with your family and with your brother. And it was just so interesting in her perspective and her down to earth attitude. It was so great. I think people just love hearing her talk. It was great having her on. And then when she recommended for you to be on, sometimes it is more about a specific time in a life. Like I had a child and I realized there was this diagnosis and it completely changed my life. The same thing happened with myself and my son.
Mhm.
That's why I decided to do this podcast. My son, as you all know, has Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and I wanted a platform to be able to share the second that we heard of his diagnosis, the path that we thought we were on completely changed. But what I like to point out is it doesn't always have to be a specific diagnosis. It doesn't always have to be a specific challenge that you faced. I really like talking to people just in general, your
Yeah.
story in life. You thought you were gonna stay in this human resources job. And next thing you know, like you said, you were brought to a higher path. So I always tell my guests, you can speak on what's ever on your heart, but I'm thinking you're probably going to go talk about that, but whatever you would like to share with us, and it can be a bunch of different experiences, but just learning more about your perspective and what you learned from the things that you've been through. So with that,
Yeah, sure.
I will let you go.
Yeah, I can also talk about my experience growing up with a twin with autism. I feel like it'd be cool for your listeners to hear it from my mom's perspective and as well as my perspective being a sibling. Recently
Definitely.
just celebrated my brother's college graduation, which we are all so proud. And I don't know, he inspires me every single day. Like when we were little, I remember doctors and other people giving him a list of, I like to call them cans. Like he can't socialize as well as other kids. He can't drive. He can't go to college. But despite having all of these challenges, he was able to accomplish all of these things. He has more friends than I do. His friends from college and camp are calling and FaceTiming him every single day. When we were just on vacation in Alaska, we had to tell him, like, Matthew, you don't have to answer every single phone call. Like, it's okay to be present with your family. And he has attended sleepaway camp since we were 9 years old and still works there over the summer. And in regards to driver's license, he studied for hours and hours every day when we were teenagers in order for him to get his license. And it took him a few times to pass the permit test, but he didn't care. He was determined to accomplish his goal and didn't let those challenges get in his way. And I think seeing him overcome all of these things made me realize that just because something might be a little bit difficult for us doesn't mean that it's impossible.
I love that so much. And it really resonates with me because of my son. And I so appreciate that you said the can'ts
Yeah,
because I remember when my son was diagnosed, I was like, it doesn't mean he can't do things. They just have to be done differently.
yeah,
And his name is Nathan. So I always say Nathan's way. So can you relate to that?
yeah, definitely. And my mom touched upon this in her podcast episode, but when we were little, I always tried to push him to go beyond his limits. I remember when we were studying for our B'nai Mitzvah, he only got like a tiny little Torah portion, but I was like, Matthew, like, I think that you can do more than this tiny little excerpt that you were given. Like, I know how smart you are and I know what you're capable of. So I always tried to be his biggest cheerleader because I know that he's so much more capable than other people may think that he is.
Now, is he receptive? Sounds like he is when you talk to him that way.
I think he is. Sometimes he might think that I'm like being annoying, but it's just because I love him. And I feel like
Right.
that's just like what siblings do.
Right.
We annoy each other. But I've been super blessed that like we never really fight. Like we used to fight over the remote when we were little, but he and I don't bicker. Like that's my bestie. I don't know.
That's so cool. So do you talk to him often?
Yeah, I don't know. He's so popular. Like I will call him sometimes and he's like, Paige, I'm busy. I'm with my friends.
Isn't that
Yeah,
funny? Well,
like he
cool.
is the cooler twin. He has more friends than I do.
Well, I mean, geez, we've only talked for a short time. I think both of you are probably pretty cool.
Oh,
We'll say you get that from your mom, but hey, I haven't met your dad. I'm sure he's
oh
pretty
my
cool
god,
too.
he's a jokester.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. And I'm glad that you talked about that because someday my older son is 19 and he would probably say similar things about his brother. Like he's so popular and he has all these friends and he's always busy. But my older son's a little more of an introvert. And I would love to have him on the show or just talk to him more openly about what it's like to be a sibling of a child who's a little different or has disabilities or has to face the world in a different way.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if other siblings of people with special needs can relate to this, but like my biggest fear as a child was being a burden to my parents, and that kind of translated into adulthood of me suppressing my emotions and not knowing how to communicate them or express my needs because I looked at my parents and I was like, oh my God, they're already dealing with so much with Matthew. I need to make sure I'm not causing them any sort of stress. And that's kind of how I fell into sound healing because into adulthood, I didn't really know how to release what was going on inside of me. And I think that kind of manifested into an anxiety disorder, people pleasing, and all of that. And following that spiritual path really helped me learn how to release all of those things. I remember during my sound healing training, one of the women that I was in the cohort with was like, you need to work on your inner child. You don't know how to release your emotions. You need to work on them. I was like, yeah, I did not need you to tell me that. So I think that's definitely helpful for parents to maybe know, like, just because you have one child with special needs doesn't mean that your neurotypical child isn't struggling too. They might be dealing with similar things where they're like, hey, I don't want to be a burden to my parents. I need to shrink myself as small as possible to make sure I make their lives easier.
I think that is spot on. I see that a lot. And I don't think he necessarily is very open with us about it. So I'm sure that he can relate to what you're saying. And even if my younger son is disrupting things or having behavioral issues, which sometimes I think are because of his frustrations, but sometimes it's because he's 15, right?
Mhm.
And my other son will say, "Stop doing that to mom." Like he'll try to stick up for me. He'll try to like make it easier for me, which sometimes causes even more frustration, but I can always see him just trying to play that role. And it's got to be a lot. It's got to be pretty heavy to handle that.
Yeah, no, it is heavy, but I think as a child, you don't know anything different. So,
Right.
I mean, I was kind of used to it. I remember adults being like, "Oh, you're so mature for your age," and I was kind of like, "Oh, well, I have to be." I had
Mhm.
having a sibling with special needs, you have to grow up so much faster than other kids.
Yeah, and deal with things that your friends just nothing wrong with that. They
Yeah,
just haven't dealt
no,
with. Yeah.
no, I'm
Yeah.
so thankful for my experience in having a sibling with special needs because he made me the person that I am today. I would not be half the human that I am without Matthew.
I can appreciate that. Wow. So, yeah, I like that you kind of segued though, because I do want to talk more about this sound healing. What got you into it? I mean, some of the things you just said, but I had never heard of it till I talked to you.
Sure. So it's kind of a long story, so buckle in. So I discovered sound healing my first semester of senior year of college. I was looking for background music to study to. I had just had 4 shots of espresso because I had a paper due in a few days and I needed to get it done. And when I was just scrolling through random stuff on Spotify, I found this one song that was titled 432 Hertz, Lower Your Heart Rate. And I was like, ooh, I need that. I just drank a lot of coffee. So I listened to that album slash soundtrack, and it was the first time my mind just went quiet. I didn't have background noise going on, and I could fully concentrate on what I was working on. And maybe there's some truth to this healing frequency music. There's a bunch of different healing frequencies. The bowls that I use are 432 hertz. There's 528. It's all up to preference. But I started listening to these healing frequency sounds every time I studied. I was listening to these for hours and hours every day, and it was the first time I had ever gotten a 4.0. I made Dean's List every semester prior to that, not to brag, but this was the first time I had gotten all A's. So I was like, okay, there's some truth into this. So I would constantly just be listening to healing frequencies. And then after graduation, my family and I went to Costa Rica for my graduation trip, and they had sound healing at one of the places we were staying at. After that, I had the best sleep of my entire life. I had felt like I had slept for like 2 days prior to that. And then when I moved to Denver, I met my sound healing teacher. I think it was in November 2022, and I thought she was so cool. She hosted this giant sound bath with a cacao ceremony, and she had just gone to Egypt for a spiritual retreat. So she brought in what she learned from that into the session, and it was so cool. So after going to that session in 2022, I went to her sound baths and other different sound healers in the Denver community. And my friends and I took a trip to Sedona, and that's a super spiritual place. If anybody's into that, like a bunch of the different hiking spots, they have these places called energy vortexes where the vibes there are a little bit higher than other different parts of the land. So we did a lot of energy vortex hikes, and during the sound bath, I had a vision of myself leading one. So I was like, okay, maybe this is my next step. I messaged my sound healing teacher, and then I was like, oh, wait, I don't have time to get certified. I have my corporate job. A few months later, I get laid off, and I was like, oh crap, what am I going to do? And I had listened to a Gary Vee podcast a few months prior, and he said, if you idolize somebody, offer to work for them for free for a few months. So that's what I did. I messaged my teacher. I said, hey, I just got laid off. Can I work for you for free? Do you need an assistant? She didn't need an assistant, but she convinced me to sign up for her certification program. I literally had no money to my name, no job, nothing to do. It was a huge risk, but I made that investment back in like less than a year, got certified, and now we're here and I'm trying to pursue it full time.
Wow, that is amazing. Going back to young people that have things figured
I
out.
don't have anything figured out. I just pretend like I have my life together. Nobody knows what they're doing. I'm just a good actress.
Well, I think maybe it's not, maybe figured out is the wrong
Yeah.
word, but you not having fear, and just trying things and understanding things that took me and some others that I've been around a long time to figure out. It's like life is short, and going after things, sometimes you do have to take a risk and sometimes it's scary, but what's the worst that can happen? I mean,
Yeah,
if this didn't work out, you'll find something else.
I guess.
So
And
I love that.
I also want to touch upon the fact is like I do have fear. Like I was extremely fearful of signing up for this certification program. It was a huge investment. I had so much fear leading my first sound bath. It sold out, and I was like, I've never led this group of people. I think going through the whole pandemic in my earlier 20s, I realized everything that I want in life can be taken away from me in a minute. So if I want to do something, I need to do it. I have to do it scared. I have to do it tired. I have to do it hungry. I got to do it with no money because I might not be able to do it if I don't do it in this moment.
Okay, that's a better way of saying it.
Yeah.
Or maybe like faith over fear. How about that?
Yeah. Okay.
I like
Uh,
that. Yeah, because you're right. Very good point. It's hard to say you don't have fear. I mean, trying new things is scary. So,
it's
I
so
get
fair.
that. But I also can appreciate the perspective and things that you've been through, and maybe even going back to being a twin, having a brother with special needs, maybe even going back to that, just the perspective that you bring to the things that you do is just different than people that maybe haven't been through adversity yet. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think it took a long time for me to say, wow, life is short. You don't know what tomorrow will bring. And very good point about things can be taken away from us at any time.
Mhm.
So when you've got those things and you can draw on that experience, it changes how you look at things and how you move forward and try something different.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's a good point too.
I just think that is so cool. Okay, so back to your business. Do you go to a particular location? Do you rent a space? Do people just come to where you live? How does that all
It's
work?
kind of a mix of everything. I have in-person private clients that I do sessions in a co-working place. So I recently just joined a mastermind group in February based out in Westminster, Colorado. It's called Her House. It's such a cool space for any people in Colorado listening that are looking for a group of female entrepreneurs to kind of learn and grow with. The co-working space has a podcast studio, a healing room, a photo studio. So I do my sound healing sessions in the healing room. I have a session with a client in a few weeks that I'm super excited about. I love private sessions because I really get to design it in a way that helps the individual. Even though I also love doing group sessions, I think that private sessions are the most beneficial because I really get to tailor the session to that person's unique needs.
Okay. And similar to kind of what you talked about at the beginning, after they have this session or they have this, what do you say, luxury nap,
Yes.
um, do you then have a discussion or is it kind of just, I've put you in a place where your mind is open and you can have this healing on your own?
I always allow space for people to chat with me. I think the most important thing after a session is integration. So the last thing I want to do is just send somebody home. I've had people have like crazy visions of deceased relatives and things like that. So just giving people space to move through those spiritual downloads, because that might be the first time somebody experiences a super spiritual experience. And when you're first going through those emotions, it can feel like you're going crazy. I did a past life regression session last year and I went through a bunch of different crazy experiences and I felt like I was losing my mind. And when I was able to talk to the person about everything that I was going through, it kind of affirmed, no, you're not crazy. You just experienced a higher state of consciousness and it's normal. It's good. So after doing that, I always make sure that I give people the space to talk about what they're moving through.
Okay. Gosh, that's so interesting. Do you find that sometimes people will come in and they have a hard time letting go and getting to a space where they can get to healing?
Yeah, I think definitely it can be hard for somebody who's never done meditation, yoga, anything spiritual like that to allow themselves to drop in. So I make sure to do a lot of grounding before we start. So each sound bowl that I have is attuned to a different chakra or energy point in our body. So I work a lot on the root chakra, which is focuses a lot on feeling safe in our body, grounding. So I focus a lot on that because somebody who's never done a sound bath before might have trouble dropping in. And the nice thing about the bowls is if you don't want to ground, they're going to make you ground. So the bowls kind of take on a life force of their own, which is really cool in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. This is so interesting. So you keep talking about spiritual energy and getting into your spiritual space, and I haven't turned this podcast into too much of a spiritual kind of podcast, but I do believe in God. And not that I want to go there, but when you say spiritual, what does that mean to you? Like when you talk about that, and you don't have to go into a whole religious
Yeah.
discussion, but just wonder what the word spiritual kind of means
So
when you use it here.
I feel like the difference between religion and spirituality, religion to me is more like following the rules from a book. And then spirituality is more about like finding your purpose, figuring out what works for you. And even regular, like mundane tasks can be spiritual. Like going through a setback and coming back on the other side is a spiritual experience.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. That really does make a lot of sense. And speaking of energy, what is the energy vortex that you said?
So, different parts of the world are believed to have higher states of frequency, higher states of vibration, consciousness. Like, have you ever been somewhere in nature and you just feel way more elevated? That's
Mhm.
what I mean by an energy vortex. So it's like that feeling times a bajillion.
Okay. Wow. Well, it does seem, and this is from my very limited knowledge of the west side of the United States, but it seems like you are in a very prime location for this interest. What will it be like when you come back to New Jersey?
I think that people in New Jersey need the sound healing maybe more than the people in Colorado. My parents' house in our hometown is really close to New York City, and the hustle culture is so prevalent. Like, people are praised for working themselves to the bone, staying up late, doing stuff outside of their job description, and those people need the healing more than anybody else, I think, because they're not giving themselves the space to kind of relax. And I think people don't realize that if you continuously burn yourself out, you are never going to be successful in your career because you're not able to deliver the output that you need to deliver in order to get that promotion, get to the C suite, or launch your own business.
For sure. I couldn't agree with that more. And I think, yeah, certain states, certain parts of the world, of the country are more into that than others. And you do wonder what is the best for our bodies. And sometimes I don't know if that hustle bustle and those long hours and stress are really what we need to be
No,
doing.
and we need to rest or else we won't be successful. I've definitely had to learn that. Like, after doing sound healing, I will feel like I'm hungover sometimes without drinking because I'm taking in other people's energy. I'm giving people so much that sometimes the days after a sound bath, I can't go to work even if I have to. I remember working my corporate job and having to do a sound bath before, I would feel so drained.
That makes sense. Wow,
Yeah,
interesting.
like, and that's the luxury now of being able to work for myself. I know that a day after a sound bath, if I need to, I can rest and integrate for the rest of the day. And if I'm not resting, I can't give other people the best experience. So I'm sure that's also true in the corporate world. If, let's say, you're a high up manager, if you're not resting, you can't lead your employees in the way that they deserve to be led.
I think we need to give ourselves more permission to do that and to rest and to just stop and be still more often than we are. So I think that's, again, really, really good advice and very good perspective at a young age because I think a lot of us still
Yeah,
don't understand the importance of that. So good for you on that.
thank you.
So let's get back to moving. Do you have a space that you'll be able to use in New Jersey?
Um, Not yet. I mean, my parents' backyard is pretty big, so maybe I can post some stuff there, but I know that if this journey, this is on my heart, this is my purpose, I will call in whatever space I need to host my events. In that sense, I'm not worried. And also, sound healing is super cool. So I'm sure if I tell somebody I'm a sound healer, I'm looking for space, it's not going to be hard for me to find something. It was really easy for me to find space here in Denver, so I'm not worried.
Okay, good. Yeah, and the space that you kind of spoke about, I know a couple of locations like that in Michigan. Like it's not that uncommon to have somebody own a space that, well, you can do this and you can do this
Mhm.
and you can bring this practice and that practice and some of them are related and some of them aren't. So yeah, I'm sure you will find that. And then going back to your clients in Colorado, are there people that you see on a regular basis?
Most people are kind of once a month. I would love to call in more people that maybe need it weekly. I bet if, like, when I was working my corporate job, I was getting weekly private sessions, I probably would have been performing so much better.
Okay, yeah, if you were doing that. So, have you had the conversation, "Well, I'm moving, so
Yeah,
if you wanna keep up with this, like, is there a way to do some kind of virtual connection with these people, or will you
yeah,
just
I'll be
send them
doing
to somebody else?"
sessions virtually on Zoom, and I think virtual sessions are really nice because that person doesn't need to leave their house. I think sometimes we get so drained that even the thought of leaving our house after coming home from work sounds like the most daunting task ever. So I think it's cool that I'm able to deliver that healing experience from someone's bed.
Okay, yeah, and they're comfortable in their own
Yeah.
space too. And when we talk about clients, are they men and women, all different ages? Does it matter?
Um, it's a mix of both. When I first started working with people, it was like a lot of women my age because it was my circle of friends and I was giving them out for free. I was like, hey guys, I need hours. Please do a private session with me. And now it's kind of a mix of people. I have one client that I met in the Red Rocks parking lot. It's kind of a mix of, yeah, a bunch of different people.
Well, great. So, yeah, if you could go back and talk to the person that was getting ready to go into college and you didn't know anything about this healing journey, what would you say to her?
I don't think I would say anything. I think everything kind of happened in divine timing. And I think if I did any small thing differently, like if I had a tea instead of a coffee one day, I don't think I would be where I am today. So I don't think I would say anything to her.
So it's just let destiny work. Like don't go back and change anything because of the steps you took got you to where you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That's very true. Oftentimes especially as we get older, we think, oh, if I would have done this differently, if I would have taken that job, if I wouldn't have left that job, if I moved here instead of there, things could be different. But I really like that perspective, because if we didn't go through all of those
Mhm.
steps, think about how different life could potentially be. Like, where I live right now, it's not very far from where I grew up, but I do think if I hadn't met my husband, I probably wouldn't be living in this city, and if I wasn't living in this city, there's so many people I wouldn't have met,
Mhm.
and life would just look so different. So, I like that. Don't go back and have regrets and make changes or wanna go back and change what you've been through, because
Yeah.
it wouldn't leave you to who you are today.
I don't know. I like to go through life having the belief that like everything that happens is for my highest good and is leading me to a better path. And like whenever I face setbacks in life, I try my best to not have that victim mentality of woe is me. I like to look at it as, oh, here's a situation. This sucks, but setbacks are opportunities for us to grow. What's that saying where it's like, oh, diamonds only grow under pressure? Like we are able to grow into the best versions of ourselves without experiencing setbacks. I think people who experience more setbacks, maybe in their earlier years, are destined for higher things in life.
Yeah, I like that too, and learning to cope. I think that's a big thing, and as you brought up COVID before, that was a tough time
Mhm.
for us all, but especially kids. So many of us never went through anything
Mhm.
like that as a kid. We just went through school, everything just kept on moving, everything was very much the same, and that was such a weird time, and to experience that at a young age, I do see a lot of people out there, a lot of young people, and you say, "Gosh, I wish they could cope better." Like, if something comes up, if an obstacle shows up. So, I really like that you kind of have that perspective, and I'm sure it came from a myriad of things, but it probably had a lot to do with growing up.
It took me a long time to kind of get to this more regulated space, but I'm really thankful for that time in my life because now I can help other people do it. I still have anxiety from time to time. I don't have enough serotonin to chill all the time. But I think everything that I've learned over the years has helped me to approach life from a less reactive and more regulated space. I recently started studying Kabbalah, which is like a Jewish form of spirituality and mysticism. And one of the teachers that I learned under, he said, whenever you experience setback, to make sure that you're not approaching it from a reactive place, you should say, "What a pleasure." And I recently did this when I lost my keys in the mall. I was like, oh my God, what a pleasure. Like, this is awesome. I lost my keys in the mall. I can't wait to find them. And because I was able to approach it from a non reactive space, I was able to find them and be totally chill about everything. And my parents were like, how are you not freaking out right now? I was like, honestly, I don't know. Me freaking out isn't going to change my situation. I lost my keys in the mall. And if I approach this from a more reactive space, I'm not going to be able to call my keys back.
I mean, to your point, none of us are perfect. We're all human. So sometimes we all have anxiety, and sometimes I'll flip out about things too. And
Yeah.
but it is nice to have perspective. I don't know, that's really interesting
Yeah.
to be like, wow, I'm blessed that this happened.
Yeah.
That's a hard approach, but
It's hard.
it
But
worked out.
I was like, this feels inauthentic, but now I do it all the time. I'll be like, oh my God, I have to go spend money on gas. Like, what a pleasure. This is awesome.
What a pleasure. That's very interesting to me. What a pleasure, like, this mistake happened or this issue happened,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna try that.
I want you to try it and report back to me. And if anybody who's listening is interested in diving deeper into it, I took this class called Kabbalah One. It's taught by this guy named David Guillaume. The class is donation based. You can literally pay whatever you want. I think I paid $1. So yeah, 10 out of 10 would recommend.
I love that. I've never heard that approach, so that's very interesting, and you're right, it's a challenge to all of our listeners.
Yes.
Yeah, but I so appreciate it because, again, we're not perfect. There's days that are good and there's days that are bad, and there's times in my life, it could be just a couple days in a row where I'm like, gosh, I just feel down or I'm not in the same space that I want to be in. But I try to be as positive as I can, and I try to find the good, and I try to let go of the negative emotions. I don't like to hear negativity constantly from others, so I don't want to give it back to them. I don't want to constantly be negative around them. So I really love your approach and where you're going with that.
Thank you. And then, yeah, hearing negativity from others too is super hard. And it's so important if you are the type of person that is working on staying positive to protect your energy. I'll do this thing sometimes during my sound baths where I envision a white light protecting me to make sure that if somebody is really going through it, that I don't absorb that energy. Because sometimes, even after sound baths, I'll wake up feeling sad for no reason. I'm like, okay, this is not me, and now I gotta like figure out how to release it.
And I think that's very true. I mean, listening to you speak, some people may not be as in tune with their spirituality as you're talking through, and they might think, "Oh, how does that work?" But I mean, in general, you're making a good point. If someone constantly, even not in the healing situation or this bath
Mhm.
situation, just in general, when people are bringing negative energy, it can really bring you down if you let it
Mhm.
take take
I
over.
like to
So,
pretend to brush something off of my shoulder. Like sometimes when I'm around people who are so negative, I'm like, get away from me.
oh, I like that too.
I can try to explain things from a less spiritual perspective if that would be more palatable to your listeners too.
No, I like where you're going. I think you're very authentic. I don't think that this is just, oh gosh, where is she coming from? I don't think you're just making this up. It's
Mhm.
like coming from your heart and your soul. You can, I mean, obviously my listeners can't see you. I can see you, but just listening to your words, I think it's very authentic and genuine. And I think that's coming across. So no, I just mean sometimes it's hard to think in that way if maybe you aren't as in touch with your
Yeah.
spiritual side. Nothing wrong with that. I was just trying to say that everything you're talking about just relates to life in general for all of
Mhm.
us. We can all relate to what you're saying, and I really appreciate you having this mindset because I think it's going to carry you far. There's a lot more life to live,
Definitely.
and I think having those thoughts and having this whole foundation is really going to help you.
Thank you. And I guess to try and explain it from a more practical perspective is I've worked really hard to not have a victim mentality when it comes to things because I feel like if you're just going through life like woe is me, why is this happening to me? My life sucks. You're never gonna improve upon things. My sound healing teacher, she said something that really resonated with me. She always says, life isn't happening to me, it's happening for me. So kind of like that saying that every setback that's happening in my life is for my highest good. I have certainty that this setback is going to bring me to a higher path. So that's a way that I can explain it to your listeners from a more practical place. I just really tried to not have a victim mentality when it comes to certain things.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. And again, I really do think that you're expressing it very well, and you are making it palatable for us all. I do like the victim mentality because I think a lot of us can do that. I know I've been down that path, like more so for my son. I was doing this a couple days ago and I really needed to get myself out of it. Why did this happen to him? Why is he in a wheelchair?
Mhm.
It's not fair. But first of all, you're teaching me quite a few things, but also I like just saying, think of all the perspective that he has taught
Yeah.
me and think of everything he brings to all the people he's around. He
Mhm.
has so many friends. He's in high school and he has this group of just graduated
Uh-huh.
seniors and they took him out to dinner. They were like, "We're gonna go to dinner. We want you to come with us." So it was him and like 15 seniors
Mhm.
and they all went out to dinner. It was so cute.
Awesome.
And these guys are just like, look at him. It brings us joy. He makes us happy. We want to be around him. And so I just need to constantly remember what he is bringing and what he does share with all of us.
Yeah, and I guess to touch upon that, in the Kabbalah class that I just took, one of the people actually asked, like, "Oh, what's the spiritual meaning of somebody having mental illness or special needs?" And David said people who are born with certain developmental disabilities are spiritually higher than neurotypical. So someone like Matthew or your son was meant to come into this world and bring light to other people. And I think your son is bringing light to those people. I think Matthew brings light to anybody who ever crosses his path. So that's how I kind of look at it when I'm like, oh, like I wish Matthew was able to do X, Y, and Z. I think he is here to serve a higher purpose than the typical, like, neurotypical path of go to college, buy the house, get married, have kids. I think he is here for a higher purpose, and that's to bring light to other people. Whenever I'm with Matthew, my energy is so much more elevated after hanging out with him. We were all on vacation together, and I think that is the most I have laughed in the longest time.
Oh, that's wonderful. You were on a
Yeah,
cruise,
we were in
right?
Alaska.
That is so great. Now, did he choose to go there? Was that
Yeah,
his choice?
and his reason was so funny. He wanted to have authentic Alaskan salmon, and thank God he wanted
Okay.
salmon because it was such a fun trip. 10 out of
Oh my. Wow. Was it just the 4 of you
10.
or did you have
Just
other? Okay.
the
Oh, I love that so much. Wow. This has just been such a positive time. I just so appreciate you being on, and I know we went back and forth a couple of times and then you got busy, but I'm really glad you came back and reached out because this has just filled my bucket for sure today. And I love that I had both you and your mom on, and it was really great getting not only your perspective about living with your brother and the light that he has brought to you and made you the person you are today. And I loved all of that, but also everything you shared about positivity positivity and just bringing good energy to this world and going after it and maybe doing things fearful, but having faith and just continuing to move forward with all of that positive energy. I just think that is beautiful, and I really do hope and pray that you keep that because it's awesome. And like I said, you're very authentic, so keep bringing it to others, keep sharing it, keep passing on your message. People need to hear it for sure.
Thank you, and this has been so fun. This is my first time doing a podcast.
You need to be on more podcasts because you speak so eloquently and so beautifully, and you have a great message to share. So take this as your sign that you are very good at it and you can keep going and
I was
get interviewed by other people.
nervous.
Well, you did great. I tried to make it a casual conversation because I just think every single person has a story or many stories to share. And I think our listeners hopefully will continue to grow. Our listeners need to hear these things and we can relate to everything that you said. I think people can bring a lot of what you brought to their own personal lives, no matter where they are on their spiritual journey, no matter what they believe in, no matter where they live. I think they definitely can learn from you. And I wish all the best to you. I'm going to keep following you. I will share your information.
I'll plug it here on the podcast. My Instagram, who's interested, is at Healing by Paige.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you shared. I will put it in the show notes so people can follow you too. Any final words you would like to leave with our listeners?
Yeah, sure. So I guess touching upon the laid off part, I know a lot of people my age are also looking for jobs and the market sucks. If you're having trouble finding a job, honestly, you're going to have a better chance at following your dreams and starting a business. I've been applying for real jobs too as well, and nothing's really like come from it. So if you're kind of in that fun employment era right now and you have something that's been on your heart, maybe a business, maybe you want to start posting on social media, maybe try that instead. I mean, I don't know. I feel like unemployment is a really fun period, even though it can be full of uncertainty and be really scary. It's also a time where you can really find yourself. So maybe work at a coffee shop and on the side, grow your business or follow your dreams. So I guess that's kind of what I want to say to all of the Gen Zers right now that are struggling with this crazy job market.
I think that's great advice. And I think it's hard to know exactly what you're going to do with your life when you first leave college. We all think we have it figured out, but
Mhm.
there's so many other things out there. You don't have to follow the traditional path. There's other opportunities. I love to follow your passion, your dreams. I always say go after your joy. Life is short. You shouldn't be sticking to a job that you hate when maybe there's something else out there. I know we all need to make money. We all
Yeah,
need to pay bills, but sometimes we can be creative. And you also, like you said, go work at a coffee shop. You never know who you're going to meet.
yeah,
Maybe someone's going to come order coffee and then you're going to have this connection and then
yeah.
you're going to find a new path with that. So
Yeah, when I
I love that
got laid
advice.
off from my job, I was substitute teaching, and that was so much fun. If any of my people are listening to this and are fun employed and having trouble finding work, recommend subbing. I also work security at Red Rocks for fun because I go to so many shows there and just spending money, and that's been super cool. I worked backstage for Sophie Tucker for any of my EDM house music fans listening.
Yeah, and again, not that you do things without fear, but not being afraid to try new things. I think that's really impressive and a great trait to have because again, life is short. Never know what's going to be around the corner. Like we always say with Show Me the Way, you never know which path you're going to take if you're going to turn right or left up ahead. And I like that you're not afraid to try that, even if you maybe are a little nervous about it.
Well, thank you, Andrea. This has been so much fun.
Of course. Thank you so much for being a guest page and can't wait to drop
Yeah,
this.
for sure.
Thank you for joining me for the Show Me the Way podcast. I truly appreciate you tuning in to today's episode about overcoming adversity and finding your path. I hope it brought you new insights, empowered you with perspective, and inspired you to find joy in your journey. If this episode touched your heart, don't forget to leave a quick review as it will help us reach and motivate more people. Until next time, keep seeking the light and showing the way.